There is a lot of information floating around the internet regarding the NAR settlement, with many media outlets giving false information that is misleading and confusing to a lot of people. So in today's video, I will go over the real estate practice changes that have been accepted by the NAR that will actually impact you, the buyer and the seller. And towards the end of the video, I will go over commonly asked questions that will shed light on how the rubber will meet the ground. So if you are looking for clear information, you definitely want to stay till the end of this video. So let's get started. I want to start this video by sharing that NAR has agreed upon a settlement that is yet to be finalized. The court has to still approve it, but most people that are involved in this and most experts in the real estate industry firmly believe that these changes will be implemented and will become law by the middle of July 2024. For those of you that are just stumbling upon this, here's some background context for you. This case took place in a Missouri court where the jury found NAR and other defendants liable in the case which is called Burnett versus NAR, which is related to real estate broker commissions. This case mainly includes 3 seller lawsuits and does not include any buyer lawsuits. In a nutshell, this is an antitrust case where the plaintiff sued because they felt they were steered, provided wrong information, not enough information, wrongfully influenced to pay buyer broker commissions. The settlement, which is subject to court approval, states that the National Association of Realtors continues to deny any wrongdoing in connection with the Multiple Listing Service, MLS, Cooperative Compensation Model Rule, MLS Model Rule, which deals with paying buyer's agent compensation. This rule was introduced in the 1990s in response to calls from consumer protection advocates for buyer representation. It's ironic how there was a compensation model rule change that happened in the 90s that was advocated by a lot of consumer protection advocates for buyer representation. And now the rules are changing. So now let's talk about the actual practice changes that will be impacting you, the buyer and the seller. I would like to start off by saying that the agreement document is a very comprehensive and intensive document. I am not able to talk about everything that is listed in there. The purpose of this video is to summarize points for you guys so you can better understand how this will be impacting you. But if you're still interested and want to read, this document is out there. You can read it. I would start off by reading section 58, which talks about real estate agent and real estate broker practice changes. So let's get started. Number 1, compensation rule changes, which says no buyer broker compensation is allowed in the realtor MLS. What that means is that there is a section on the MLS that all agents have access to, that buyers agents can look at and see what the seller, how much compensation is being offered by the seller to the buyer broker agent. Now that section will be completely removed from the MLS. We'll dig into this a little bit deeper as the video moves, but let's just talk about the rule changes right now. Number 2, buyer broker must have the buyer sign an agreement and negotiate fees prior to showing a property from the MLS. So going forward, if you are going to want to go see a property and you find an agent on Zillow, that agent, you have to have a written agreement, buyer broker agreement signed with them before they can show you that property. Again, we'll talk about this more in detail later. Number 3, buyer brokers can only be compensated what is in the buyer broker agreement. No more than what is listed in the agreement can be paid out. So the agreement that you have with your buyer's agent, with your agent that is helping you find homes, it must be written, and that buyer broker agent cannot be paid more than what is listed in that agreement. Number 4, the amount of compensation cannot be open-ended, must be specific percentage or an amount. So kind of just went over that. It can't be open-ended, it has to be specific amount. Number 5, must disclose that fees/commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable. Now, this has always been the case, but they're emphasizing here in this agreement because obviously when someone false practices, we all have to suffer, but real estate commissions were always negotiable. It was never the law. They're just emphasizing it here again. Now, seller concession rules. Number 6, sellers may offer concessions via MLS for buyer closing costs, but cannot be specifically for buyer agent compensation. Sellers can offer a percentage specific number, not open-ended. So what that means is that now sellers cannot offer direct, use the terminology compensation or commissions, to offer compensation for the buyer broker agent. They can only offer concessions which are towards closing costs for the buyer, and the buyer can use those to pay his agent. Number 7, seller concessions must be asked for in the contract. So if there's seller concessions that are offered that can be used to pay for buyer's closing costs or you be used to pay for the buyer's agent, they must be asked for on the contract by the buyer's agent. If it's not written on there, what you're offering is what we're gonna get, then that will not be given to the buyer's agent. It must be asked for in the contract. Number 8, concessions are subject to open negotiations in the purchase contract. This is a new change that before, when a agent was writing an offer for his buyer, there was no negotiation on the commission. You would submit a purchase contract, and then whatever was listed on the MLS, those compensations were paid out to the buyer's agent. Now it's open. You can negotiate those concessions and ask for them in the purchase contract. Number 9, buyer's agent may not be paid more than pre-negotiated amount on the buyer broker agreement. We kind of talked about this before. Whatever is on that buyer broker agreement, if there's seller concessions that are being offered and they're more than what's listed on the buyer broker agreement, the buyer broker cannot make more than what's on that agreement. Again, I want to emphasize that I have not gone over everything that's in that agreement. I'm going over high-level pointers here that should help you understand how this will impact you. If you're getting real value out of this video, please show me some love, hit that like button, leave me a comment, and don't forget to follow me to stay on top of your real estate game. Thank you for watching. Now, all that we went over might be a lot to comprehend, so let's try to visualize this. So how it was done before. The listing agent and the seller would meet, they would discuss the contract, the seller would sign that listing agreement contract. On that listing agreement, they would agree upon a compensation that would be paid out to the buyer's agent, which again, I want to emphasize is negotiable. It always has been. It was never the law. Then the buyer's agent commission amount was entered into the MLS, and all agents were able to see that commission that was being offered on that property. Then that agent that was interested, who had an interested party, a buyer that he was representing, would bring that buyer to the selling party. They would get a contract ratified, the deal would close, and then the buyer's agent would get paid the commission that was listed on the MLS. Now, let's talk about the new way. The listing agent gets a contract signed by the seller. Seller has the option to pay any concessions, not compensation. Remember guys, the term has changed now. It's not compensation, it's called concession, but may offer concessions for buyer's closing costs, which indirectly can pay for the buyer's agent's compensation. But in this new way, there will be no reference to a buyer broker commission or compensation on the MLS. That field is completely going to be removed. However, in this new way, the buyer's agent can ask for concessions from the seller on the purchase contract when submitting an offer for the buyer. And if the seller is offering concession for the buyer, that can be listed on the MLS with an exact amount or percentage, but it cannot be open-ended. I hope that put things into perspective. I know a lot of you guys have a lot of questions now, so I would like to address some commonly asked questions. Question number 1. I am a new buyer in the market. I want to go see a property. I don't have an agent right now, and I click on a link on Zillow. Will I have to sign a buyer broker agreement before I go see that property with that agent? The answer to that question is yes. If you do not have a buyer broker agreement with any agent and you want another agent to show you a property and you clicked on a link online, you will have to sign a buyer broker agreement before that agent can show you the property that is listed on the MLS. Now, if you already have an agent that you already have a buyer broker agreement with, obviously you can call that agent and they can go and show you the property instead of contacting another agent who cannot show you the property until you sign that agreement. Question number 2, will the buyer have to pay for his agent's commission that is representing him or her? The answer to that question is yes and no. Now, if an agent is representing you, like we've talked about above, they can now negotiate on your behalf and ask the selling party on the contract to offer concessions that you and your agent have agreed upon, which is a set number. Now say that number is 2.5% or 3% of the purchase price. That agent can negotiate on your behalf and ask the selling party for concessions that can in turn pay for your agent's commissions. Now, some sellers may choose not to pay buyer concessions, and in that case, you can pay for those concessions on behalf, pay for the compensation for your buyer's agent, or you can choose not to look at that property and look at another property that pays for your buyer's compensation, or you can rescind that contract that you have with your buyer's broker agent. Number 3, will there be sellers that offer no concessions to the buyer? The answer to that question is absolutely yes. There may be some sellers that offer no concessions. Now, in that case, you can decide not to make an offer, or like I mentioned earlier, you can still make that offer because now the rule's changing where the buyer's agent can ask and negotiate concessions on the contract. So again, it's going to be interesting how things pan out, but it's all open to negotiations. You have the choice to ask for concessions, but there will be sellers that offer no concessions. Now, after hearing all this, I'm sure most of my buyers that are watching this have still a lot of doubt and uncertainty in your mind. So let me ask you a question. Question number 1, someone that is working from a true fiduciary standpoint on your behalf, someone that is looking for great deals for you, someone that is your trusted advisor, looking over disclosures, looking over property inspections, is going over city rules and city ordinances, giving you their tried and tested practices that help you benefit and increase value to your real estate portfolio, negotiating on your behalf to save you thousands and millions of dollars on the biggest purchase of your life. Do you think that that trusted advisor and that agent will work for free or would want to work for free? That's a question that I want you to answer, and please leave me answer this question in the comments below so I can reply to you. Now, there's a rule that I didn't go over that clearly states in the agreement that if an agent comes to you and tells you that they're going to work for you for free, they must truly work for free, meaning that they can get concessions, compensations from nowhere. They're truly working for free. So this is something to ponder over, and please leave me a comment and let me know what your thoughts are. And question number 2, this is mainly for sellers. If one seller is listing his home and decides not to offer buyer's concessions that will eventually, or that can eventually, pay for the buyer's agent's commission. Now, let me be clear again, real estate commissions are negotiable, it's not the law. And then you have a second seller that is offering buyer concessions that will eventually pay for that buyer's agents. And both of these sellers are in the same neighborhood and have the same home that has the same bedroom count, looks the same, shows the same. Now, in your mind, which seller or which property will get more activity, will get more buyers to come to it? I am not asking sellers to forcefully do anything. I'm simply asking questions. Please leave me a comment below and share with me your thoughts, because I want to hear it from you guys, what you guys think about these changes. So if you are a buyer in today's market and say the rules have changed, it is more imperative than ever before that you interview agents and find the one that you gel with, someone that has your best interest in mind and someone that's going to add that exceptional value to your real estate portfolio. Because as it's been cleared in this video, that you will have to sign a buyer broker agreement before you can see properties that are on the MLS. Now, if you are a seller, I would advise that you ponder over the thought of what strategy you want to employ when you want to sell this home. What are the pros and cons if you don't offer concessions? Because now you know that buyer's agents can negotiate and ask for concessions on the contract. So if you're already not offering concessions, you may get a number put out in front of you that you may not like. That's all I have for today, guys. I hope this video was insightful to you. Until next time, this is Karan Singh.